Breaking news is out of New Orleans. At least 10 people are dead, 35 others hurt after a driver plowed into a crowd of people.
So this happened around 3:15 on Bourbon Street. So that's 1:15 our time, Pacific time. Officials say the driver purposely drove through barriers and into people celebrating New Year's Day, trying to run over as many people as he could.
We are expecting to hear the very latest from officials in just a matter of minutes. But first, let's get to KCRA 3's Melanie Wingo, who's been monitoring this situation all morning long on what New Orleans mayor is now calling a terrorist attack.
Yeah, city leaders, law enforcement leaders, the FBI, they are all talking about this morning what they are calling this mass casualty incident. They spoke at a briefing this morning for members of the media, and they did say that this is a terrorist attack that happened on the streets of New Orleans. So authorities described the very intentional nature of this incident. It all happened very early this morning, local time, when a man driving a pickup truck at what police said was a very high rate of speed plowed into dozens of people on Bourbon Street in the famed French Quarter area of New Orleans. They believe he was trying to run over as many people as possible. Now, at the last media briefing, we learned that 10 people were killed. At least 35 have been injured. Police saying the suspect blew through some barricades that were set up on the street that were in place for the New Year's Eve celebrations. And then he ended up getting into a gun battle with officers on the ground after he crashed his truck. 2 officers are among those injured. They're being treated for gunshot wounds. Louisiana Representative Troy Carter spoke with our sister station WDSU in New Orleans about the newest information he's learning about the suspect and the investigation.
We know that it appears to have been a lone suspect who was taken down by law enforcement. We know that he was driving a vehicle that appears to have had Texas license plates. This appears to be someone that is from the local metropolitan area. We can't say much more about any of the other information other than every possible resource with federal, local, and state agencies being employed. We're in constant communication with the White House, with the FBI, to make sure that we are securing the area for visitors and residents alike.
And we've been talking all morning about how information continues to come into our newsrooms, and it's updated by the minute. So just within the last 10 minutes, New Orleans City Council member Helena Moreno spoke with our sister station WDSU, and she says the information she is getting about this is that the person did not act alone. He had an intent to kill, and she says it's the right move that the FBI is taking over this investigation. And she believes that other suspects, other people who might have been part of planning this incident, will be found and prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. Also, the city of New Orleans, she says, and various levels of law enforcement will ultimately need to examine and take a hard look at security measures that are currently in place and what could have been done better. Again, all of that down the road. But that particular council member, Helena Moreno, who was speaking with our sister station there in New Orleans, also said for anybody who happens to be there as a tourist, any locals, they are going to be at the scene. Authorities will be combing for evidence for at least another 48 hours or so. So that whole French Quarter area, they are telling people to stay away from. And, you know, Brandy and Mike, if we think of large incidents, large crime scenes that have happened in our area, and the one that really came to mind for me was the K Street shooting in downtown Sacramento. That was a crime scene that was up for a couple of days at least. There's so much evidence to pour over that you can bet that council member who was speaking with our sister station is pretty spot on. That area is going to be closed for quite some time.
Oh, absolutely, Melanie. These investigations take days, weeks, months, years to really get down to what happened. And to your point about the barricades, we were watching this morning on the NBC special coverage, their special report. They also had an expert, a law enforcement expert, who said, you know, these barricades were just kind of these plastic things that they put up, these traffic kind of, you know, blockades. And he's like, you know, if you really want to stop someone from doing this, you have to really put something in place place that's going to really stop a car. So he mentioned like New York, how sometimes they'll put the dump trucks there, or the steel, or not the steel, but the concrete barriers, but things that will really stop a vehicle from going through and ultimately taking people's lives.
And to that very point, Brandy, I have also been listening to those security experts speaking with NBC News National and also our sister station in New Orleans. And some of the local reporters were talking about how there are what are called bollards. Okay, so if you think of when you go to Target or a shopping center and they have those structures like a large ball or like pylons right in front of the front doors of, even if you think of the state capitol, there are structures that would prevent a vehicle from going through doors or going through a street that they don't want a vehicle to go through. There were some bollards that were under construction in New Orleans on Bourbon Street in that French Quarter area. And so, according to our reporters on the ground there, they were talking about how those might have been under construction and not fully complete in advance of Mardi Gras. So again, these are tidbits of information that are coming in and will be examined in the days to come about what could have been done better. Could they have put in those K-rail Jersey barrier concrete barriers in place in advance of Bourbon Street to prevent a vehicle from going through versus, say, just a construction type setup where it would be like a line with yellow and black stripes on it, and you think maybe, hey, don't go through here. They needed perhaps, according to some of these security experts, something more fortified like a bollard type structure or K-rail Jersey barrier, big concrete barriers that could not be moved.
Yeah, and shutting down the French Quarters, especially during a time like this. New Year's Eve is the French Quarters is one of the largest destinations for folks to want to go and celebrate New Year's Eve. And on top of that, you do have the Sugar Bowl today, where you have tens of thousands of fans from Notre Dame as well as Georgia who are all going to be in town. So keeping them all out and keeping that scene about as pristine as you possibly can, that is no small task for law enforcement at all.
And it's not just, the Sugar Bowl. We're talking in just a month, literally a month and 3 days, we're talking the Super Bowl that's happening right there in New Orleans as well. Thousands of people will be right back in that same city. Then a month later, Mardi Gras. I mean, it's one of the places that, is known for Mardi Gras destinations. So there's going to be a lot of conversations happening, of course, in New Orleans about what happens as they move forward and how will they work to protect visitors and, of course, people that live there as well.
Yeah, large scale events. If you've ever been to that area, Bourbon Street, French Quarter, it's such a big tourist draw at any time of year. And then when you talk about, say, as you mentioned, Brandy and Mike, the Super Bowl happening there or the Mardi Gras celebrations that are happening there, safety has to be top of mind, according to security experts we've heard from. And just being there as a tourist, you go, so many people are walking up and down Bourbon Street. It's just such a tragedy to think that people out celebrating the new year, the welcoming in 2025, were put in such grave danger. It's frightening, and we know that those security analysts will take a look at this, a good hard look at this in the days to come, and that's what city officials are already saying they need to do.
Absolutely. And of course, Melanie, as you mentioned, we are awaiting a news conference that is expected to happen at any moment here from New Orleans. The latest one happened this morning. So that one was around 4 a.m. our time is when they gave kind of the first update, where we started to learn a little more details about just what happened overnight. But we are expecting to learn more, potentially more details about the suspect as well, which up to this point, we really haven't heard anything. We know it was a man. We know he was driving a white pickup truck, but we haven't gotten any information about him. So we do expect to learn that as well in this news conference happening. And of course, for folks at home, as soon as it does happen, we'll bring it to you live as well. And Melanie, I know you'll be watching from our newsroom as more developments and more details come out on this. If you do have to leave us and you're not able to watch us live, you can always download the KCRA3 app. It is free to download. Turn on those push alerts and you can get up to date even when we're not live on air. Meanwhile, President Biden has been briefed on this situation, and he is also getting updates throughout the day. In a statement, he praised New Orleans law enforcement for their brave and swift action, also saying, quote, "My heart goes out to the victims and their families who were simply trying to celebrate the holiday. There is no justification for violence of any kind, and we will not tolerate any attack on any of our nation's communities."
President-elect Donald Trump also responded in a post on Truth Social saying, quote, "Our hearts are with all of the innocent victims and their loved ones, including the brave officers of the New Orleans Police Department. The Trump administration will fully support the city of New Orleans as they investigate and recover from this act of pure evil." Now, with the Tournament of Roses currently going on, the city of Pasadena is also extending its sympathies to the people of Louisiana and New Orleans. Hundreds of thousands are in Pasadena for the Rose Parade this morning. In a statement, the officials say there, "We stand in solidarity with the entire state during this difficult time." They also say the city coordinates for months with law enforcement. They also added that they have a hard shutdown of vehicles along the parade route and vehicle barriers. 1,000 law enforcement personnel are also working the parade as well as the game later on today.